Welcome back to the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston. We're at the Texas High School Coaches Association Convention. I'm Mark Kusenberger with Texas Sports Productions. We're here with Lyndon Hamilton, head coach of the Reagan Rattlers. Coach, back in the playoffs last year, as is the expectation. And maybe that's our fault, but even at 8-2, the Reagan Rattlers underdogs against an undefeated O'Connor team in the playoffs. And your team put on one of the best shows of the season with a great win. Describe for us getting ready for that contest when it may have been the case that the Reagan Rattler locker room were most of the believers in this team that particular week.
It was first week of the playoffs, and we were super excited to be back in the postseason. And the kids do or die mentality. Week one, you don't win, you headed to the house. And we had a great week of preparation. Coaches did a phenomenal job of preparing them for that game. And, the kids are resilient. Each and every day they come back no matter what at Reagan, and they're ready to rock and roll. So super excited that week for that challenge of facing O'Connor. They were rocking and rolling. Had a great year. Coach Melissa did a great job with that program last year. But came out ready to fight, and they did that, and we were super proud of those guys for that win. Didn't finish the way we wanted it to the next week, but we can build off of that from last year, 2018, going into this year in 2019. A lot of those kids are back, so we're super fired up about what we've been doing the last spring and this summer.
I know there's a lot of mutual respect at Northeast amongst the athletic coordinators there. And for some of us on the outside, we'll look at that and say, well, we have a very tough district, top to bottom, no matter what the records say. And some of us media guys will, okay, Coach. And I think one of the reasons that the expectation levels weren't as high as they should have been from the outside on the O'Connor game is that you got pushed real hard by Roosevelt.
Sure.
And MacArthur was inside your 1 yard line in the last minute with a chance to force overtime. And then when you beat O'Connor, you said, see, we told you had a tough district.
Yes, sir. Super competitive last year with Coach Carroll's squad, and a lot of those kids are back. Coach Cook's team pushed us to the wire, like you said. A lot of close games last year, and a lot of those teams, those young men are back, and so we look forward to a highly competitive year with our non-district preparing us for the district race, opening up with Johnson in district. We were, week in and week out, you better be ready to rock and roll in 27-6A, which used to be 26-6A, but now
we're still getting used to
I'm
that.
still getting used to it too. So
just when we got you used to the 6A part of it, now they throw the 27 in.
Yeah, a lot of close games last year. We found a way to pull some wins out, and look forward to having a lot of those kids back on the offensive side of the ball and in the secondary. So hopefully a lot of our skill kids can come through big time for us in 2019.
Well, you mentioned your skill kids, and they're certainly great folks to rely on. But you look at Travis Staley, a Staten Ankrum, Carter Campbell, and they didn't get to participate much in spring ball because they got caught up in that baseball stuff yet again with another deep playoff run. I know you embrace the challenge, but describe for us keeping those young men ready for all the demands on their time with the skills they have in all the sports. And I know there's more than that, too. There's Luke Hoggett. There are other crossover athletes.
Sure. At the end of the year, I believe there were 6 kids that we're going to heavily depend on to play big for us this year.
Brett Moore, I saw mentioned.
And the Moore kid, he's got a chance to maybe have an impact on the varsity this year, depending on, how he progresses. Coach Chapman does a really good job of being flexible, as do I. We scratch each other's backs on that thing. And, in 2019, you got to be flexible. And, we always talk about multi-sport kids and getting the most out of both programs for your baseball kids and your football kids. But we try to make sure we take care of them. The main thing is to keep all those kids healthy because, like you say, they don't get a whole lot of rest time. They're playing baseball all summer long, and we've got to be flexible as coaches and as a staff to make sure that, we're doing 7-on-7. We've got weight training in the morning, and those kids are in and out of state doing tournament play. And some of those kids are our best players. So we want to keep our best players on the grass, and we try to make sure that we accommodate their needs, making sure that we put the team first, of course. But, sometimes it's about the Mo's and Jo's, not the X's and O's. And we got to keep those studs out there with us. So, yeah, Carter Campbell, and we're even getting a kid back, the Robba kid, that played center field for us. He's going to come out as a senior. He had a hand surgery last year, which kept him out as a junior. So we're really looking forward to get him back in a helmet this year for his senior year. And, we're excited about those baseball kids, and I know Coach Chapman's excited about those kids coming back too. I believe he graduated Big Cal at first base, and the Cavan kid that was the catching for it. So he's got about 7 of those 9 kids back also for when they get after it in the spring. So yeah, future looks bright in 2019.
So Reagan Athletics should keep us pretty busy for the 1920 school year.
Hopefully we have a great 2019 year.
The spread offenses are so prevalent, especially at the higher classifications. But one of the beauties of high school football, at least for those of us who didn't have to coach against 17 different offenses, is the variety that you will see is not near as homogenous at the higher levels. At the same time, I imagined that when the realignment came out, and now you've got South Santa in the district, and they're running the slot T, and then Ron Harris switches over to the wing T, or I lose track of which of the T formations they're running, but they're doing that run heavy, split heavy, hide the ball offense. Were you thinking, where the heck did this come from?
Sure. It'll keep you on your toes week in, week out. That's why we're, Coach Griff and the defensive side of things, they've got to be on their toes on Saturdays and Sundays, getting a game plan prepared for those guys. But it all comes down to making sure those eyes are right on a Friday night, making sure that they're locked in on their keys and their reads, and hopefully, no matter if they're airing it out or it's ground and pound time, hopefully if the kids are staying locked into the game plan, you're going to be all right no matter what the scheme. So, some challenges with Coach Kretz and those guys, and Coach Harris switching it up a little bit. It'll test you. You go from maybe playing ground and pound in the A-gaps all night long, and they're just spinning it around, handing it off, and then the very next week they're airing it out 60 times. So our district will definitely keep you on your toes and having to be prepared every week.
Speaking of which, Steve Bazier will be on a little later, and we could feel some of the tension of competition as you're going to be opening against each other. You had a pretty amazing opener last year, and now the same group again. It's always going to be a challenge at Reagan because that's the competition you demand. That's the competition that's willing to take you on.
Sure. Coach Bazier has some really good skilled kids coming back. I know they're really big up front. He does a great job on the defensive side of the ball. And so week 1, we better be ready to rock and roll. In our non-district schedule, it's not the easiest, but that's what we need to get us ready for game 1 in Johnson and leading into Churchill and Madison and so on in 27-6A. So it's gonna happen fast for us week 1. So hopefully we're ready to rock and roll as we come out of 2 days.
One thing I remember about that game is Hunter Chung being ready for his moment. That's a name that I don't know that anyone would point at the roster. You got to watch this kid. He's going to make a big play. But when the opportunity was there, he was ready with a special teams touchdown. That was a huge difference in that contest. You've got whole dozens of young men to get ready for a game, and some of them have prominent roles like Travis Staley, and sometimes it's the unsung hero who ends up making the biggest difference.
I'll tell you what, you spoke of Hunter Chung, just a program kid. We always tell the kids you got to play your best ball as a senior, and he did that. Understood his role in the kicking game, and he spot played a little bit at corner. But, we got quite a few kids that are in that role, and we're looking for big-time senior years from them in the kicking game and also on offense and defense. But it's great to see a kid progress from his 9th grade year all the way through his high school experience and then have a big-time impact in a big-time game. And for me, that's why we coach, and to see those guys grow and mature, knowing that when they leave us, they're better for it. So Hunter Chung, I believe he enrolled in the military, and so that's the type of kid that he is. I mean, just a stellar young man.
Well, another young man I'd like to hear about, we all love the action when the clock is running, but one of my favorite moments of the season was Preston Yates singing the national anthem. Complete young man, not just a complete football player, and Yates certainly had a great year on the field. You're looking forward to his younger brother becoming a bigger contributor. But you've got all-around young men. They've had complete lives beyond wearing the shoulder pads. Tell us about what you do to encourage that sort of thing, because the instinct is want to win, focus on football, but as you've alluded to, there's so much more to making boys into men.
Sure. The Price Yates kid, I believe he's at the top of his class. I mean, he does a phenomenal job on and off the grass. Preston, I mean, good gracious, he's headed to the Colorado School of Mines, in the choir and just led his life for 4 years at Reagan the way that you would want, if you had a daughter. you'd want them dating those two young men. Each and every day, we talked about you talk about character development, but I mean it's a constant process. I have two sons in the program, Drew and Bryce. We just coach them up like our own kids, and try to instill the work ethic and the character that you would want, in your own son at home. And that's not just for me as the head coach, but that's the entire staff. All our coaches do a phenomenal job from the top down and down at the junior high levels. We get a great product from our Stone Oak community at Bush and Lopez, but just a constant grind of making sure that, we got 3 core values we talk about all the time: taking care of women, telling the truth, and leaving the bull core alone. And we, it's not a whole lot of rules. I just tell them do right, don't do wrong, and hopefully they'll make good choices on and off the grass. And you talked about the Preston Yates kid. I can't remember ever having to deal with a discipline issue with that young man. And, I call the youngest one PY2, Price Yates, number 2. And they got a little sister that's going to be an 8th grader. I believe she may be the best athlete of all of them, but don't tell them I said that. But, I'm very fortunate to be at Reagan and work with those young men and young women along with our coaching staff to try to, have an impact as they move on to the next level after their high school experience.
Graduations will affect everybody, but as I look around 27-6A, I think that all 8 schools could make an argument that they can be as good or better than they were last year. Tell us about the challenge of getting the Reagan Rattlers ready for that, because it's very plausible you could be a better team and slip in the standings given what's happening around the district.
Sure. You look at some of the best players from last year. They're all back. Most of I think one of the best athletes in the San Antonio area is at Roosevelt High School, and Owens kid. And, the Rodriguez kid is going to be a senior at Johnson. Just a lot of guys that you have to make sure that you are able to defend. I'm talking from a defensive side of the ball. It's going to be highly competitive. Mac, like you said, Mac pushed us really, really hard last year. I think it's going to be a dogfight to the end. And hopefully we're there in the end. We got 2 main goals. That's as far as the season pertains to, we talk about winning district, which is an uphill battle every year, and in 27-6A and playing in December. We think that we need to get back to playing in that regional championship, and that's something that is on our radar. And first goal is to win the district, and it's really, really hard when every week, you got somebody gunning for you. So I think it's going to be highly competitive, and you better have your You better have those I's dotted and T's crossed when you go up against some of the coaches that we're facing week in and week out, because if not, they're going to expose the heck out of you.
Coach Hamilton, thank you so much
Appreciate
for joining us. We look forward to seeing you. We'll have all of Reagan's games on Texas Sports Productions on 1 or perhaps 2 venues, certainly audio on all the games, and they may turn up on some video as well, so keep an eye on TexasSportsProductions.com, and you'll see more of the Reagan Rattlers football and baseball, and maybe some other stuff will turn up too. Coach, thank you once again for joining us.
Appreciate it.
We'll be back with more after this break. I'm Mark Kusenberger with TexasSportsProductions.com.
Strike 'em.